Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to ABS News Talk with yours truly, Chris Anu, and as usual, coming to you from the great state of Texas, Houston, Texas, to be precise. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight we weigh in on the press conference, an international press conference that took place yesterday in Paris, France, by Issa Chiroma's lawyers. I will be joined tonight by Eric Chinje, who was there to give us insight as to what that was all about. Please do not touch your remote. I am going to be right back, and I am quite excited about the show tonight. So please, again, stay tuned. I'll be right back. All right.
ABS can help you reach your target audience like never before. Advertising on ABS, you'll benefit from our extensive reach and dedicated viewership. We offer special advertising packages during primetime slots and popular shows. You'll also be featured on our social media platforms, reaching an even wider audience. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Take your business to the next level.
Are you ready to unlock the power of AI? Mastering AI Tools, a practical guide to ChatGPT and OpenAI, is your ultimate gateway course to harnessing AI in your career or studies. Provided by Pascal Presentations LLC, a trusted name in cutting-edge education, this course empowers you with the skills needed to navigate and utilize AI effectively. Whether you're a professional looking to boost productivity, a student wanting to stay ahead, or an everyday person trying to upgrade your knowledge on this transformative technology, this course gives you hands-on experience and practical tools to make AI work for you. Don't wait for the future. Start mastering it today. Enroll now with Pascal Presentations LLC and take the first step towards transforming your potential with AI.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. This is not a replay. This is actually live. I hope the technicians take off that title. Okay, that is now gone. Once more, thank you for joining. Please do me the favor. If you are joining by way of Facebook, go ahead, hit your share button. Let other people know that the anchor man is not just live. He is indeed alive. This is not AI. This is Chris Anu. All right. And if you are joining by way of YouTube, please go ahead, hit the like and the subscribe button so that you are first to get the notifications each time that we come live. Thank you for doing so. Again, tonight, I'm taking you to Paris, where a very, very important press conference took place there yesterday by the Issa Chiroma team, Issa Chiroma's lawyers. What was it all about? Why was it necessary for it to take place in Paris? Why is it that it was considered an international press conference before an international press call, but nothing was said about it in the English language, at least to the understanding back home of those Cameroon believe are one Cameroonese. That will be the subject of my talking point, ladies and gentlemen. And after that talking point, I will be bringing on board Eric Chinje to attempt some of the questions that you are all asking out there about what this conference was all about. What was it all about? So again, that is the subject of my monologue for you tonight. This is not a hostile question. It is not an accusation. It is the most natural, most legitimate question that arises when a people vote, believe they won, and then wait and wait and wait for the voice of the man they rallied behind. Issa Chiroma is widely acclaimed by Cameroonian citizens as the winner of the October 12th presidential elections. That belief did not come from nowhere. It came from polling stations, from turnout, from enthusiasm, from a population that felt, perhaps for the first time in a long while, that its voice mattered. In the immediate aftermath of that election, expectations were sky high. People wanted leadership. They wanted direction. They wanted reassurance. And above all, they wanted to hear from the man they believe had just been robbed of victory. Instead, what followed was silence. Dead silence, it seems. Yes, there was an initial burst of activity. Chiroma called for 2 ghost towns after the elections. That was a bold move interpreted as the first signal that he was ready to confront a stolen mandate. People stayed home. Businesses closed. The message was sent. And then, nothing. No follow-up address. No nationwide message. No rallying call to explain the next phase of the revolution. The ghost towns came and went. And the leader who summoned them really shows up to speak directly to the people. Silence in politics is never neutral. As days turned into weeks, incidents occurred that cried out for moral leadership. The Meganga trucks incident shook public conscience. Ordinary workers, already suffocating under economic hardship, dashed with authority in the confrontation that symbolized the deeper rot in the system. The killing of Anicet Ekane in detention sent shock waves across the country too. Here was a death that spoke volumes about impunity, about brutality, and the cost of dissent. Many believe, and rightly or wrongly, that if there was ever a moment for the president-elect to speak, this was it. This was it. But again, Isaiah Chiroma said nothing. To be fair, however, his calm did not go completely mute. Statements were issued. His spokesperson, Alice Income herself, a respected figure, spoke on his behalf. Press releases circulated. Condemnations were made. Positions were clarified. But let us be honest with ourselves. Revolutions are not carried by press statements alone. Movements are sustained by the voice of their leader. In moments of trauma and uncertainty, people do not want to hear from intermediaries. They want to hear from the one they voted for. They want to hear conviction. They want to hear anger or feel it. They want to hear reassurance and resolve directly. Up to today, many supporters will tell you the same thing. We have not heard from him. And then suddenly, an international press conference holds in Paris. Paris, of all places. This is where skepticism set in, and not without reason. Africans more openly now than ever before have been questioning France's rule on the continent. From the Sahel to Central Africa, voices have grown louder accusing Paris of propping up sit-tight dictators, manipulating currencies, draining resources, and shielding regimes like Paul Biya's from accountability. Whether one agrees with all these accusations or not is beside the point. What matters is that this sentiment exists and it is widespread. So when a press conference about Cameroon's stolen election is held in Paris, eyebrows are bound to rise. Why Paris? Who was the real audience? The Cameroonian people who feel abandoned, or the international establishment that has for decades looked the other way while elections were rigged and citizens brutalized? To many supporters of Isaiah Chiroma, the choice of venue was jarring, and I mean jarring. For some, it felt strategic, yet for others, it felt disconnected, almost provocative. Compounding the confusion was the fact that Isaiah Chiroma himself was not physically present at the conference. Yet, the entire event revolved around him and his mandate, his name, his victory, his stolen mandate, his future. It was, in essence, a conference about Isaiah Chiroma without Chiroma. So naturally, the question sharpened. What exactly was this conference meant to achieve? In interviews and statements, Isaiah Chiroma has been consistent on one point. He insists he is not giving up. He insists the people's will must be honored. He insists the election was stolen and that justice will be pursued. These are powerful declarations. But declarations alone do not constitute a roadmap. Some voices have suggested that Cameroon could be taken to the International Criminal Court, and maybe the Paris press conference was to lay that route. Others speak of international arbitration, sanctions, or diplomatic pressure. If Paris was chosen as a gateway to international institutions, then that logic must be explained, especially to supporters who deeply distrust French intentions in Africa. There is also growing speculation, whispered in political circles and amplified on social media, that a meeting with President Emmanuel Macron and Isaiah Chiroma could be the next step. If true, this would be a monumental gamble. Macron represents, to many Africans, not change but continuity, the polished face of a system that has kept men like Paul Biya in power for decades. Any engagement with Emmanuel Macron would need extraordinary clarity and transparency to avoid being seen as betrayer. So again, we return to the same haunting question. What is Isaiah Chiroma's next move after Paris? So far, the only concrete move since the election has been the appointment of a spokesperson. That is not insignificant, but it is not enough. A revolution cannot be outsourced. Legitimacy cannot be delegated. The moral authority conferred by millions of hopeful voters rests on one person alone, and that is Isaiah Chiroma. History is unforgiving to moments like this. Silence creates space for doubt, for rumor, for fragmentation. The longer the quiet stretches on, the more supporters begin to ask whether international recognition is being prioritized over popular mobilization, whether foreign validation is being sought at the expense of domestic trust. This monologue is not a verdict. It is a plea for clarity. If Issa Chiroma believes he won, the people deserve to hear him say it often, boldly, and directly. If Paris is a tactic, what is it? If international courts are the path, outline it. If dialogue is being pursued, justify it too. Leadership, ladies and gentlemen, especially revolutionary leadership, cannot remain opaque. The people have waited. They are still waiting. And history is watching. So once more, not in anger but in urgency, the question stands, what is Issa Chiroma up to? And where is he taking the people who put their faith in him? That is my talking point, ladies and gentlemen. Again, tonight I am being joined by Eric Chinje, who has become a regular feature on this platform to throw some more light into the conference that took place yesterday in Paris, especially considering that he was one of the speakers. He was not just there, he was one of the speakers at that conference. Eric, it's a great pleasure to have you back, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. You know, you're one of those.
All right. All right. I'm sure you listen. Yeah, I can hear you 5 on 5.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Yes. I'm sure you listened to my monologue, and the question that I asked in the monologue is a question that you hear a lot out there from many Cameroonian citizens and supporters of Issa Chiroma. The long silence and then an international press conference in no other place but in Paris, considered by Cameroonians as the destination behind the sit tight Paul beer. If you can, let's get back to what this conference was all about. You were there. You were one of the speakers there. Tell our listeners what this conference was all about and what it was meant to achieve.
Well, it's important to remember, Chris, that Paris is not only the capital of France, it is one of the major global capitals. It's important to know that. There are audiences that you reach more easily from France, from Paris, than most other cities in the world. And I'm talking about major cities like Beijing, Berlin, to some extent, even Washington, because you don't reach the kind of audience we want to reach more, as easily from Washington. So, you know, there is there's a reason for the Church of Paris. It's not just because it is the French capital. So to get to some important targeted institutions and global leaders, but you know, in spite of what many in Africa may want to think, there were strategic reasons for the choice of this city. We had to get to such institutions as the European Union, and Brussels could have served for that. But Brussels, in spite of its centrality in Europe, does not have the range of foreign correspondents that Paris has. We could be targeting the International Criminal Court, which is in The Hague, but neither The Hague nor Amsterdam have, again, the range of international correspondents on one hand, but also, you know, the leaders from around Europe or the world. So again, all of that to say that there were clear strategic reasons for the choice of Paris. And the Cameroonian community in France also, which is again, Paris is easily attainable in Europe from different parts of this continent. They could converge more readily and more easily to Paris. So we wanted to have, besides the foreign correspondents, we wanted to have the representatives of news organizations that speak to the Cameroonian community in Europe. And finally, I would include the fact that traveling, for those who came in from Cameroon, again, Paris was more readily accessible. Not had anything to eat all day, actually. But that's it. There were reasons for doing what we did, and I think it paid off.
So, as you heard in my monologue, it's been a while that anybody heard from Issa Chiroma, but then all of a sudden, this Paris conference. Can you give our listeners the wisdom behind this conference? I mean, what did you set out to achieve by holding this press conference?
I think I hinted on that. Let me address a question you touched on without quite asking, and the fact that Mr. Chiroma has been fairly silent, and we can get to that in greater detail. But when you go into battle, there are a number of things you have to take into account. You think about your opponent and what resources that opponent has. And then you think about what you have to take on that opponent. And you take into account the environment in which you're operating. And until you do that in an efficient, efficacious manner, you're very unlikely to achieve your objectives. I said this quite slowly, Chris, because it's important for all who go into battle to take into account what lies on the other side, to take into account what their own resources and forces are. Because when you don't, you either have a long drawn-out war, or you'd be subject to defeat, or you'll be unable to achieve any meaningful objectives within a meaningful time frame. So the choice of organizing a conference in Paris was not made lightly. It was seen as, it was couched as one of the tools, one of the instruments at the disposal of the Chiroma team. That was a consciously made decision. I came to Paris. As a matter of fact, I was in Memphis and I decided not to come. But when I heard about the quality of people coming, all the arrangements that had been finalized, and I thought there were some messages that I should come and give, not only in person, but through that medium, speak to folks. Just a minute. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So I felt there were some messages that I had to come and deliver myself, and that's why I came and I was a part of the At the last minute, I was included on the list of those who would be speaking. It was essentially going to be a conference with lawyers and some leaders of, who could address a number of issues, the economic, the political, some legal issues led by the lawyers, of course, and diplomatic. So the choice even of those who were on that platform was made intentionally and with care, and that's who we had yesterday.
What I'm trying to figure out is, I know right after the elections, you working with Chiroma kept letting us know something is cooking in the background. Wait between December, January, the organization, the party, the coalition is working on something. We are not giving this up. So I'm beginning to. So we were wondering, was the Paris conference kind of part of that process, or whatever the organization is working on?
Yes, absolutely. I hope I got your question right, but there are a number of actions being taken that is currently taking place. And I can guarantee you, one of the busiest people on this planet today is Mr. Chiroma. Because he sleeps little, he's awake, trying to meet, try to get into dialogues across not only Africa, but in Europe, in Asia, and so on. So he's constantly on the move, sleeps little. And this is all part of, we have a singular goal. A singular goal is to, one, have the voices of Cameroonians heard, have the results of an election exposed to the world. That's important. That was a clear objective. The second objective is to rally the international community and the national community and African leaders. So even what is done and said is in consultation with a whole range of people. And these are things that have to be carried out. And it's even more important at this stage in this effort to have Mr. Chiroma doing what he has to do, within the parameters of the deal he has with the Gambians and the other African leaders. But he has to be talking to them. He has to be engaging at the diplomatic front consistently and insistently. He has to be engaging with those international organizations, institutions that are critical to the survival of Cameroon as a nation. So he's been on all fronts. I mean, if you were to talk to some of the world leaders today, they'll tell you, but no, until they resolve the Chiroma problem, they're going to be in problems themselves. That kind of pressure is being put on them. It's a pressure I cannot put. It's pressure that none of the members of his team can put. Only he can carry that out. Would he spend time managing processes or delivering on a strategy that ultimately should make sense? That's the challenge, and he's working on that. That's all I can say at this point.
One of the things we have learned or reading on the social media and by people close to Chiroma, they talk about this meeting coming up between Emmanuel Macron and Issa, Chiroma. Has Emmanuel Macron invited Chiroma to meet with him?
Um, yes, absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, the, 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 the,
Chiroma?
Not that I know of, Chris. Not that I know of. And it's unlikely. I don't see that quite happening because the approach of the Chiroma team is a global approach. It's not a country specific, it's not a leader specific approach. So I think the intensity of his discussions with anybody, whether it's the leader of one country in Europe or one in Africa, I think they tend to be the same. Those who are willing to engage with him, he engages with them fully. And that, and then of course he's not an ordinary guest in the country in which he is. It comes within a certain context, which he must respect. But I can guarantee you, he's not. This meeting had nothing to do with Macron, and I don't see where. I mean, your question is totally legitimate, but I can tell you the effort here is to engage with everybody who has some level of strength of partnership with the nation of Cameroon. And I can tell you that it's more the case with a lot of African countries than with any European or Asian country.
So is Chiroma sought to meet with Macron?
You asked me that before.
No, I asked whether Macron has invited Chiroma to meet with him. Now I'm asking whether Chiroma has sought a meeting with Macron.
Well, again, the answer is simple: no, he hasn't. No.
Okay, let's get to the point of African leaders. You know that Cameroon, I was reading yesterday a news piece that says the AU has suspended Cameroon from its ranks. That is, it is still there, but it cannot vote and so on and so forth because of its inability to meet its financial obligations. Now, when you talk of African leaders trying to meddle in the crisis,
Mm-hmm.
Who are these African leaders? Because I don't see ECOWAS doing that, right? If you are talking about Central African leaders, Central Africa is essentially Cameroon, and it is beer. So who are these leaders that Chiroma is trying to confer with to see if there can be a solution to this in Africa?
Look, every Central African country is intimately concerned by the situation in Cameroon. When truckers couldn't go up north or south, the impact on the countries to the north and east of Cameroon was immediate. So they have for when trucks from N'Djamena and the rest of Chad could not get to the port in Douala, there are goods and services, goods that could not be transported. When goods from the port of Douala could not go to Bangui and to Brazzaville and to N'Djamena and so on, even Niger, there's an immediate impact on those countries. So they have the discussions with our neighboring countries are delicate but critical and important. And they all know that. And they also know intimately that for the crisis in Cameroon to be resolved, they have to play a role. And if they're quiet about it and they let the truckers do what they do, for example, and we don't know what else is in the pipeline, it is to their own detriment. So they are, but at the same time, these people depend on what the Cameroonian people want to do. So they cannot go ahead of the game. None of the leaders can take an initiative to resolve the crisis in that country. with, they have to stay a step behind, and to a very large extent they have to watch from the sidelines. They have to see how things are playing out in the country, and I can guarantee you, it's the case across the board. Even the non-Africans, they are also to a large extent watching. Everything counts. The women in Mutangane sitting in Likumba, sitting on the roads, that counts. What happened in Moliko and in Douala, and everything counts. They're all watching, the chancelleries, the embassies. They're watching and reporting. It's all of this that adds up. And everybody's trying to make a decision.
Talking about all these uprisings, be it the women in Mutangene, the trucker stuff, and so on. Alice Income was on this show, I think it was sometimes last week, and she was essentially lamenting that the people have failed Asa Chiroma. Yet you are here enumerating the efforts of the people. Who has failed who? Is Chiroma failing the people, or the people actually failing Chiroma? Because I think Alice Income was of the opinion that the people would have done more to facilitate Issa Chiroma returning home and taking over the presidency. But it seems from your own assertion, the people are doing what they ought to be doing.
Look, I am not the spokesperson. Alice is. And she's very good at what she does. And her reading of the situation, obviously, may differ from mine, because she has the unenviable task of trying to move this faster than the rest of us. We're there to support her and to support the candidate as best we can. But I'm not on the pay list of the Chiroma campaign. So I want to see things happen. I want to see them happen quickly. I want to be able to contribute my own ideas, which I have. My experience allows me to make a contribution to the development of Cameroon. But I can't. You know why? Because the system in Cameroon now is not open to new ideas. That too is true, and I can prove that. And anybody who wants to have a discussion on that issue, I'll do so gladly. Which is why there's no point in my going to Cameroon. And why am I in the United States? I'm not in the United States because I love to be there. I don't see how that my purpose is defined by my being in the United States. I don't see that. So the point I'm making here is I want to see this change happen, and happen quickly. But the pressure is more on my friend and big sister Alice than on me. And but a direct answer to your question is yes, the people could do more. But you have to take into account the individual circumstances of the people, those we call the people. Those who attempt to go out, they expose themselves to the possibility of death from gunshots. They expose themselves to the possibility of ending up in jail. They expose themselves to the inability to effect the kind of change they're stepping out to do. So people take into account all of this, and they act in ways that may not be desirable, but they act in ways that are understandable. So I am able to step back and say, okay, they should go out, or they should not. They should they should look at their individual circumstances and make a determination. And if the majority, what Alice is saying is why the majority isn't seeing the need to go out. And I am seeing that, I'm also seeing the same debilitating reaction, but I'm able to stand back and say, okay, maybe I should think about this differently. When Mr. Chiroma, and I want to give you an example here, Mr. Chiroma comes out and on hearing about the death of Anise Kani and calls for a national day of mourning. And then he goes on to invite Cameroonians to march to the various jails, the jail houses in which Mr. Biya is locking up more and more young people. He said, go there, stand there, and demand the release of your brothers and sisters. Those were the orders he gave. You want to know how many Cameroonians went in front of a jailhouse the next day? Almost none. So what does he do as president? What does he do? Does he rush out and say, okay, I'll stand there, you follow me? No, that's not how it works. Cameroon is not, all of these.
And that is very interesting. And that is very interesting because we here have been lamenting the absenteeism of the masses to pick up this battle because, Issa Chiroma may be the leader, but he's a figure. He is just a figure.
Yeah.
The people need to rise up and then look up to Issa Chiroma and say, what do you want us to do? We are out. What do you want us to do? What is the direction?
Absolutely.
That is not happening. You call for 2 ghost towns. People barely show up. There was life in Douala, life in Yaoundé, apart from a few towns in the west, in the western region, and then up north, life was on everywhere. But then the problem is, why is it that the organization is not giving specific directions as to exactly what they would see the people do? Because you call for 2 ghost towns and nothing happened, then you don't follow up.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good question, Chris. Look, if you call for 2 ghost towns and nothing happens, do you go ahead and call for another ghost town? Do you go ahead and call for because the ghost towns with the ghost towns, people are at home essentially. We say stay home, don't come out. Now, the option is either they stay home or they go out. Now, if you call for the ghost towns and they don't stay home, you turn around and say, okay, hey guys, you've got to come out. Do you think that's going to happen? No, I think the president, Mr. Chiroma, only has his strongest weapon now is his voice and access to leaders around the world, and he's using those 2 weapons to the max. He's using them as effectively as he possibly can. He's with regard to instructions that he could give every once in a while. That is precisely why he's appointed a very courageous lady, very very intentionally appointed Alice Nkom as the spokesperson. And when she has to speak, she speaks. And she speaks in his voice. They consult each other regularly. I was going to say almost daily. Yes, daily. And regularly. So, we should never forget the objective and what it will take to get there. We should never forget that. We've determined that, and Mr. Chiroma says this all the time, nothing that endangers citizens should be part of the package of options. He says that. He says he doesn't want a drop of Cameroonian blood to be shed again to bring him to office. Cameroonians will have to determine whether they will do that to bring him to office. What, at this stage in the process, what Mr. Chiroma sees is putting pressure on the system, and Cameroonians can do that in many different ways. The women were doing it in their own way. The truckers were doing it in their own way. There are other groups that are about to step up. There are other groups in the country that are about to step up. But they're all very conscious of who they have in front of them. A government that will not hesitate to use arms against its people. That's obvious. I'm not saying anything new here. a government that will not hesitate to fill up prisons that are already full. The Kondenge was built for 1,500, 1,600 people. Kondenge now has multiples of that number. People stand all night, all day, or sleep on each other, or it's chaos. And I'm told there are people dying in the place regularly. So in spite of all of that, again, encouraging people to take that option of being arrested is not something he would want to do, but we just have to continue to make the point that power is in the hands of the people. And you hear Alice, if you listen to her, Alice Nkom is constantly inviting people to take their power. It's in their hands. If 1 million Cameroonians decide that they'll pick up Chiroma from the airport and take him to Etudi, they will. It'll be hard to see the regime bring down that many people, okay? But is that something that should come from Chiroma? No, not at all. Not at all. And I can tell you the time will come in the near future when an effort along those lines, it will not be calling for people to expose themselves to death, but something along those lines would have to take place for the change that everybody wants, including members of the regime. The time will come when even they will have to say enough is enough, it's time to act. And that time will be coming soon, Chris.
What stopped them from saying so now, though? I mean, the people you are referring to. But the second question would be, what is going to take Issa Chiroma returning to Cameroon?
Well, again, I just answered that question. He will come to Cameroon on two conditions. When this country is brought to its knees and they have to figure out a way forward, when the country, talking about the regime, when it's brought to its knees, and it will be brought to its knees, when that happens and they have to then figure out a way forward, then we will all be there to figure out a way forward. But it will not be with the same team that has failed this country over and over. It will not be with the same team that does not have a vision for the country. I'll challenge, if there's any of them listening to this program, ministers or not, to just examine their own consciences and ask themselves, do we have a vision for Cameroon? Or are we a ship just navigating the seas, the high seas, without a sense of direction? Because that's probably what we're doing right now. So, Mr. Chiroma clearly has a vision. And now let me say what that vision is. We have the wrong constitution. There are too many errors in our constitution. The initial constitution was written, as you would rightly understand, mostly by French-led, experts from France, who obviously had a certain orientation in their thinking. Then later, there were modifications, and these modifications inevitably tended to be self-serving. So largely maintaining the status quo. The status quo was maintained to keep those in power, not to open up to a new vision. That's the problem. Not to open up to a new vision, not to think. That's why the system is so afraid of new ideas. They don't accept new ideas. So the Chiroma program includes a total revision of that constitution with Cameroonians sitting around the table discussing various aspects of the constitution. Look at how the country is governed. Look at how power is shared or distributed across the board. Look at issues that would improve governance. Look at issues that would allow us to do an equitable distribution of wealth and how it goes into those things that improve on the quality of life in that country. That's what he will do as soon as he gets to power. The crisis in Anglophone Cameroon or Ambazonia or Southern Cameroon, that crisis will be resolved within weeks. Habib Tabe and his team will be out. They'll be out of where they should never have been in the first place. That is part of that agenda. The regions, look, even Yaoundé, we will see a new Yaoundé emerge from the ashes of this, of what it is today. And we probably will see the same thing because the regions would have more resources if the country is split up in regions in whatever shape and form within the new administrative infrastructure. Each part of the country will have the resources it takes to rebuild, and we'll see the rebuilding of the country. There's no question in my mind about that. That's the advantage of having a democratic system. So the constitution, the new constitution, would guarantee greater democracy in Cameroon. One way of doing that would be, for example, to allow for every presidential election to go the number of rounds it will take to have a president who has the majority of the votes, over 50%. That alone will allow for a new form of thinking that will ultimately allow for the country to advance.
You are very much aware that invoking constitutional changes is a long-term project, and there is absolutely no guarantee Mr. Chiroma is going to be there. And you know, right now, Mr. Bia is going to be there for another 3 to 4 years, and after he is done, the cabal in place, the cronies in place, know who exactly is going to fit into Bia's shoes. So, talking about constitutional changes in the long run, of course, is very much welcome. But I think at this moment, people want to know how he gets there. Is it through economic blockade? Is it through international sanctions? For example, I'm hearing Cameroon is almost crumbling now. They cannot pay bills, and the World Bank, the international financial institutions are not ready to give them more money. I guess if I was hearing that Issa Chiroma is trying to tighten the noose of the financial institutions against the Republic, that would make more sense for me than talking about a constitution which he has to be there to change.
Yes. So your question, I think you've put a lot of questions together, and it comes out. I get the sense of what it is. Those questions are. The first of them is he cannot change the constitution from the outside, and I agree with you completely. He cannot change the constitution from the outside. So everybody who wants a change in that constitution should be acting in ways that allow us to get there. That allow Mr. Chiroma, in ways that allow Mr. Chiroma to get there, to be able to change the constitution. And if they don't, then they are part of the problem. Everybody who does not allow us to get to that point where we can change a constitution that has been so devastating for the development of the country should examine their own minds, go into their own consciences, and agree that they are part of the problem and not the solution. Now, so I agree with you on that score. What I take a step back from is the fact that, one, you say Mr. Bia will be there for the long run, and the people that will take over from him will, maintain the status quo.
Right.
And there too, I only agree with you partially. One, I disagree that he'll be there, uh, for much longer. I don't think he will be. I'm not God, so I don't know what the future holds for him. But I'm a human who's helping to put together as in meaningful a strategy as can be done. So, based on what I know of that strategy, Mr. Bia will not be there for the long run. I don't think so. I also do not think that when the change ultimately comes, he or anybody in his team will be in a position to influence the kinds of changes that will take place. But I want to say this, because I don't think they'll be there for much longer. I don't think the change you're talking about, that constitutional change, will take a long time. Within a few months of getting into office, Mr. Chiroma will change the constitution. You can mark
so the question is, how is he going to get in the office? What moves are being made? We are talking here of the Paris conference, and so what next? Is he talking to the courts? Is he talking to some international organizations? Is he? You have just said here he doesn't want bloodshed. How does he get into office to change the constitution? Because nobody really has an inkling of what he's up to.
Yes, I know that there are lots of people who think, oh, blood, or fight. I heard in your program of yesterday, oh, let's get guns and so on. Yeah, okay, that's an option. It's always been. But you'll know, of course, that a lot of people who've taken that option, it's taken them almost decades. And usually the outcomes have not been dependent on the ability of those guns to help them fight their way to power. The forces that have come together to overthrow systems and people guns are only a small part of that. Take any, when I listen to the people who show up on this program, they talk a lot about Eritrea, it took them forever. And the circumstances that led to Eritrea becoming independent had nothing to do with the guns came in, of course, but believe me, it's when Meles entered Addis Ababa. Totally unexpectedly, he expected resistance. He was going to Addis Ababa to insist on letting Tigray go. And when he realized that as his small army was marching forward, the corruption of the Mengistu years had destroyed any semblance of an army in Ethiopia. And then the Ethiopian people were just like the Cameroonian people today, fed up, demanding change, and welcoming Meles and his army. And it's only when they took over that they turned around and said, so what do we do? And then they said, let go Eritrea. Because Eritrea had been in arms with them. So, there are lots of things that come together to meaningfully change power. And I can tell you, and this is in answer to your question, Chiroma is doing everything it takes to bring this regime to its knees. And I've told you, it's at the diplomatic level, and I can be more detailed. Again, that I don't want to disclose. Of course, in disclosing some elements of the strategy is to prepare, to be forearmed, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. So to give this regime all the elements of the strategy is to forearm them, and we don't want to do that. But those elements are diplomatic, economic, financial, and to a large extent, diasporic. So we're going to, be working with the diaspora. It's one of the things we'll be doing, to ensure that change comes.
I think that was the answer I was looking for. Not a very clear answer, but at least you touched.
And give you some elements of what I know you wanted to hear.
As a politician, that you are not, though. So, but let me
never been.
But let me ask you: there are quite a number of Cameroonians, especially in the diaspora, who are saying, What Issa Chiroma is trying to do, thinking that he can use diplomacy and international sanctions to take power, it's not going to work because it hasn't worked anywhere. And they are working on getting arms to take out the regime in Yaoundé. Would Issa Chiroma support them if they pick up arms to eject the regime in Yaoundé?
Well, if I tell you that intelligence coming to us is that part of those promoting the use of arms are actually a part of the regime.
Part of the mission.
The regime is sponsoring those who are saying we'll pick up arms to bring out the regime.
How does the regime benefit from promoting people to use arms? So it's like you saying the regime is promoting Ambazonians to carry arms.
No, I didn't say that at all, but I'm telling you that strategies, part of winning a war is developing the right strategies. And if the strategy says destabilize the other folks by promoting a certain idea that would weaken them, the other side, ultimately, why not? And again, I want to say this in a way that ordinary folk will understand. If he were to buy into the idea of one of the groups, because there are quite a few of them, I'm not saying all of them, but some of the groups are saying, if he bought into that idea and started promoting them, then that takes away his ability to be effective on the diplomatic front. Clearly. Now, he has to weigh the options. He has to see who these guys are who want him to take up arms, where are their ideas coming from, who ultimately is behind them, and it is in doing that. Look, it is in doing that we can guarantee you that it's not everybody saying take up arms that is willing to take up arms. They just want him to say yes. I can tell, there are folks who've come to me and said, Eric, all we need from you guys are arms. And only for me to find out later. Chris, I don't want to get into some of these things. As I say, there are some elements of strategy involved here, and it is not appropriate for us to discuss them on Mondo Vision, on global networks.
Has Cameroon reached out to Issa Chiroma to attempt dialogue? I ask this question because there are allegations that Yaoundé hasn't changed the regime or appointed a new cabinet since the elections because they are trying to negotiate something out with Issa Chiroma, and they are using the leaders of Senegal and the Gambia to carry out this negotiation. What has Cameroon reached out to Issa Chiroma to say, listen, we can figure this thing out, we can reach some agreement? Have they done so?
I think my answer, based on the knowledge I have, is categorical. No, they haven't.
They have?
Except they have not.
Okay.
The Cameroon government has not to my knowledge, and I'm sure if something as dramatic as that were to happen, Mr. Chiroma will tell me, I think. So they have not. And listen, to give in to that would be to again guarantee the status quo, guarantee the continued existence of this system. And it is precisely this system. Mr. Chiroma has been in the system and knows that it's heading, it's driving to a dead end. He's been in the system and he knows that. I don't see him, any inch of his personality, working to maintain the system. is corrupt to the core. Why do I say this? I say this because the evidence is out there. The corruption, people are corrupt with impunity. I invite anybody watching who doesn't know, go and find out. Just let me put 3 questions. Find out how many cars, something as simple as that. Send any of this, let them go find out how many cars the Director of Cabinet, Mr. Ayolo, has. Find out and try to estimate. It's even available on the internet, I think. What one of Mr. Ngongo's palaces, what it just might be worth. It's twice the size of the White House. Find out what the palatial residence of the Deputy Director of Cabinet, Mr. Baboke, what he has. Now, just these 3 alone, and this applies to just about every one of them. How could they, on a civil servant's salary, get even 2 of the cars that Mr. Ayolo has? Because his cars include, the most expensive and the most sophisticated cars on earth. Some of the best cars. From, I don't want to mention specific names because I may get them wrong, but some of the most expensive cars ever made. He has them, not 2, not 10, not 20. You can keep going up. So, and this is verifiable. So if the top people in government are so corrupt with absolute impunity, then there's something wrong. And Mr. Chiroma doesn't want to be a part of that.
He was part of it, though, already. Everybody will say
for long enough.
And he is part of what we have day to day. And it is very difficult for an average Cameroonian to trust that Issa Chiroma will not play the game once more
yes.
At this moment.
I cannot vouch for him, but for the man I know, and this is one of the reasons I decided to support him in the end. Because when the election started, I'll find out these 2 young men are still there, Ateki and Iodi. I called both of them. I said, I want to stand with you guys. You are the young ones. You're the ones who can bring new ideas into this system. You too should agree. And agree on a common program that you can sell to the young people of this country. Agree on that, and I will be with you, and I'll try and generate support for both of you. Only for me to realize later on that there were strings attached to their candidacies. So we had to give up on that. You may even know that prior to that, this is prior to the choice of candidates, the 12, I wanted to throw my weight behind the choice of an Anglophone leader, behind Mr. Akeremuna. People who, folks know this. But it wasn't going to work because, we were in a different place and time, and the idea of a leader of English-speaking origins was not kosher at the time, I think. So that's where we are. I mean, that's where things ended up, and new leadership could not emerge, new ideas could not come into the mix, and we are where we are today in that country.
When current cabinet members in Yaoundé reach out to Issa Chiroma secretly, what are they saying to him?
I do not know. I believe that there are many people in government now, in the army, in government, civil government. There are people who've called, who've reached out to Mr. Chiroma. So clearly there are people who would support a real change in government. That we all know. I mean, there are lots of people in government who want to see the kind of change that we're talking about. But I don't know that uh, that there's a clear demand within government for the kind of change that we're talking about. I don't know that there's a clear demand for that.
Let's go back to Paris, the press conference of yesterday. It was everything void of English language. When you came up to first, it was Rebecca Inonchong. Then you, I don't know whether there were other English speakers there, but people were expecting that being an international press conference that some form of bilingualism will be demonstrated there, not just for the sake of the media, but also for those English listeners who need to know what you guys are saying. Everything was French. Everything. We carried it live here throughout, and the comments were not good. People were like, I thought this is a country, the people organizing this are coming from a country that is said to be bilingual. How come this thing is all in French? Wasn't the BBC there? Wasn't Deutsche Welle there? All this international media that is exclusively English? But more so, what about the Anglophones in Cameroon? Were they not supposed to listen to it? Why was it exclusively in French?
Yes. I totally agree with you. I totally understand the question, and I look back with a lot of regrets. The fact that we did not take into account the linguistic dimensions of the challenge. The fact, though, is that I came into that room prepared to make my opening remarks in English, speak to the issues in English, and hopefully, respond to questions that would come to me in English. That was my expectations. But a lot of things happened that were totally unplanned for. One is we ended up losing about an hour and a half, I think. So, and this room, this beautiful conference room, was leased to us with a very specific deadline when we could open and when we had to close. Now, the opening, it happened. People started coming in, drifting in, and it took us an hour and a half. There were some technical problems. There were some other issues. We lost about an hour and a half. So when we finally opened, we had time to rush through a number of the planned deliverables. And by the time we finished, for those of you who stayed to the end, you realize that I only spoke at the end, I was only given 5 minutes. And then when I started speaking, I was reminded, oh my God, time is gone. We must liberate the room. You only have 2 minutes. 2.
Yeah, I heard that.
So, I had to now try to squeeze what I said. And if you allow me, I'll say I had to squeeze what I said into what I thought were the most salient points I had to make. And that's what I tried to do. One of them, I don't know if with your permission, Chris, I'll just repeat,
sure.
Say what I really wanted the audience to retain. The first thing was what Mr. Chiroma himself reminded me of. He said, look, this fight, the fight we're engaged in, is the fight of a generation. That fight of a generation lies in the liberation of Cameroon. So that's the first and the most important takeaway from that conference. Fight of the generation, the fight to liberate Cameroon. The second thing was the need, and I said this, the need to establish a support fund to help all the mothers, all the families, all the social organizations, the SCOs, we had to figure out how to help all of these people. The third thing I said was about the democratic experience, and I think it's important that I say this again here. It's about the democratic experience, and I decided to do a comparison that may bring the point home to folks in Cameroon and around the world. It was about the democratic experience that we've had in that country from 1990. And what I did was look at what happened in 5 countries. I took the example of Senegal, of Cote d'Ivoire, of Ghana, of Kenya, that's 4, and Cameroon, that's 5. These 5 countries, I looked at each of them where they stood at the starting block in 1990. Whether they were a democratic nation or not. But what we realized was, from 1990 to today in Senegal, based on their democratic experience, they've had four heads of states. 4. You know, Abdou Diouf, Wade, Macky Sall, and the young man who's there now, Diomaye Faye. So 4 presidents. Cote d'Ivoire, in spite of the war that country went through, 10 years of war, they too have had 4 leaders. Ghana was also in a state of economic free fall in 1990. All these years later, 35 years later, Ghana has had, and since its democratic experience, 4 leaders. Kenya has had 3 leaders. So all of these countries which are of a similar economic weight, political in their regions, they've all had changes in government. Cameroon, of the 5, is the only country that has not had a single change in government. And if you look at where the gross national product, the GNP or the GDP of all of those countries, the 5, the one that went into a free fall from 1990 to today is Cameroon. The others that have seen evidence of growth are the other 4. So this tells you not only about democratic opening, but leadership of qualitative leadership, because it's tied to governance, tied to change, acceptance of new ideas. And think about this. Cameroon could have been the same as the other 4 and could have by now had 4 leaders. And because we know that. Why? Because in 1992, a Cameroonian won the election. A Cameroonian we all know, Mr. Frundi. Nijon Frundi won in 1992.
Right.
Now, and what happened to him? He was held under house arrest. Then, fast forward to 2018, Kamto ostensibly won. Second, would have been the second leader. He won. What happened to him? 10 months in jail. And then, fast forward to 2025, what happens to the guy who wins? He's under exile. That's Cameroon for you.
So what would it take to break this jinx of each time a leader wins an election, they are either exiled or sent to jail? What is it going to take? Because everybody going into the recent election thought this was the moment. But apparently it doesn't turn out to be the moment. What is it going to take to break that jinx?
It's an excellent question. And as I say, I wish I had the crystal ball or had the powers of the Almighty to help me figure out what's going on here. But it is clear that we're not going to change this system based on our whims and caprices. No, we're going to change the system by educating, or by, well, one of the ways is to ensure that we take the public along and we keep them on that trajectory of change. You know, prior to these elections, everybody was talking about we want change. Everybody was talking about that change. And now nobody is. Is it because there are no more arguments in favor of change? No. So, you know, we have to just put it at the top of the agenda, and that's amongst the things that we intend to do as forcefully as we can. So, Chris, I don't know, you know, I don't know what else to say about, you know, where we are in the game right now.
Okay, let me get back to the French. There is no doubt, you and I, we know that. There is no doubt the French are behind saying something, doing something. What are they doing that we know?
I think I understand what is going on at that level. The French clearly want to see this thing resolved quickly. They took the same approach in the two countries they do not want to see a crisis in. They did in 2010, and Cote d'Ivoire went into a tailspin. They don't want to see what happened there happen again. So they're playing that game very carefully. And they seem to be succeeding because the government in Cote d'Ivoire has demonstrated that it is in control. The French will not force anything down the throats of Cameroonians because they know that, especially at this time, if you look at the international, the geopolitics of Africa now, the French will not force anything down the throats of Cameroonians. So they're hoping that Mr. Biya and this, you know, the regime in Yaoundé will exercise control, will demonstrate that they are in control. That's all they're asking for. And France is watching. And I can guarantee you this also. If the Biya system fails to demonstrate control and France realizes that it cannot have it, you would see a shift in the politics of the French vis-a-vis Cameroon. You'll see that. Because they're interested in having a government that's in control.
So
and
essentially,
they also know that the experience they've had in Africa cannot be applied. There has to be a change in that experience, in how they engage with the countries that they want to stay in. So there will be a change with regard to French, or what we call France-Afrique, or Francophonie, if you like. There will be a change in how they engage with any government, even with the Cote d'Ivoire. We are seeing that. They'll do things that bring development, bring economic growth, bring change in the quality of life. The French will do that. So I'm almost certain about it. But until the Biya regime demonstrates that level of control that the French think, okay, they got it, France will stand on the fence. And as long as these mini crises, the little sparks around the country, the what do you call them, the truck drivers, the taxi, the motor taxis, you know, what do they call them, the Ben Sakina, in Cameroon. The ladies sitting on roads, the flames, like, you know, what happened in Douala. As long as these things keep happening, and they're going to see them, they'll keep happening, I can tell you. France will not take sides with the Biya regime. We can stop that from happening. And based on everything we're doing now, this may come sooner than later for not only France to step out, but even the US to be more deliberate in the quality of in the nature of their support, and the British and Brussels meaning the European Union. We'll see that, you know, and that's what we're working on.
That doesn't make sense, though. Why? After the people have voted to express their will, why should the French want to wait until they then add blood before they say, okay, Cameroonian people are actually doing something now. They are actually acting up.
Yeah.
Does that even make sense?
No. You see, that's why I have a hard time sometimes saying the things I say, Chris. All I've said is the French, as the rest of the international community, the Americans, the European Union, they want to see somebody take control of Cameroon. And as long as nobody does, they're willing to stand on the fence. That's all I said. I didn't say the French want to see blood in Cameroon. No. They'll stand on the fence.
Well, but essentially, that is a point, because you are saying the French think that the change in Cameroon depends on the people of Cameroon, and the people of Cameroon has voted for change, and the French sat quiet, even knowing that the elections were highly rigged. They say nothing. In fact, they send congratulatory messages to the loser.
No, they congratulated Mr. Beer for rigging the elections in a sense.
What is the difference? It's like thanking me for the vehicle I used in taking the vote away, but condemning the act.
Yes, that's important. I like the fact that you're saying that, but this is the reality of it. The French, like the Americans, are saying, and this is all in diplomatic language, they're saying, yes, and you've been sworn in, and we congratulate you for your swearing in. But they never congratulated him for being elected, as they did in the Côte d'Ivoire. They congratulated Ouattara for winning an election. They've never congratulated. Nobody has congratulated Biya for winning an election. So
don't you think
these are the diplomatic.
Don't you think, though?
I don't know.
Don't you think? Of course, this is not on you. This is between us. But don't you think that, though, they had the moral authority to say, Mr. President, Mr. Paul Biya, you did not win this election. You've already been there for 42 years. Please, for the interest of your country, hand over to the person the people voted. They all that moral authority to do that, including the British, including all those Western countries, the United States included.
Well, you can't say that on the one hand and then turn around and say, oh, they should come and help us change our government. You can't have both at the same time. You can't have your cake and eat it. I think that there was a lot of pressure on Mr. Biya not to run again. I think there was. And I think he just ignored them. He said, what he had said was, in French, he said, the guy who wins is the one who can, not the one who wants to win. Is the one who can
right.
win.
That was Paul Taganji. Okay, last point before we open the phone lines.
Yeah.
I read a Jeune Afrique article, I think about a day or two ago, and the article was essentially saying that in the meeting at Etudi, Biya once more restated his confidence in his Secretary General Ferdinand Ngongo to remain the Secretary General at the presidency. I don't know why that is important, but what would you read behind this?
Two things. One is, I think it's a lie. I think Jeune Afrique, which came out with that story, I think they were paid to do it, and I challenge them to challenge the statement. I believe, based on everything I heard, that the Jeune Afrique was paid to do that story by the cabinet, the civil cabinet. Now, that doesn't make it fact. There are a number of points I know could not be true. One, Mr. Biya cannot sit for as long as they said he sat in discussions with Ngongo. Mr. Biya is a sick man. Everybody knows that. It's not news to anybody. So there's no way he could have done that. And secondly, the infighting at the presidency is between precisely Mr. Ngongo on the one hand and Mr. Biya's own blood and whatever, the people closest to him. So it's unlikely. And I think what he's done until now is stand away from that battle. And he will not come declaring, it's not in his style to come out declaring what his ultimate decision
Yeah,
is
because
in the
it doesn't make sense, right?
No, it doesn't make sense. So
and that could be indicative of the division going on in there, as you said.
Yes, precisely. The man is not in control anymore. And unfortunately for the country, a handful of people on around him, both sides of him, the left fighting, the right fighting. He's unable to mediate, and Cameroon is held hostage. And that's where we are. That's why we've got to stop this. That's why it's in everybody's interest, in the interest of all the Ambazonians, whether they agree to this or not, in the interest of all Cameroonians, in the interest of the Central African region, to stop this nonsense going on in Yaoundé.
Back to the press conference yesterday in Paris, were there any French government officials present in that meeting?
I don't know them, but I think that indicated that they would be there, so I suppose they were there. The EU had indicated it would be present, so I think they were there. I didn't see anybody I thought was an American, because I tried to engage in English with a couple of people, and whom I thought maybe American or British, and I didn't come up with the sense that they were. So the truth, though, is everybody followed that. Everybody followed that conference.
Has there been any reaction at all from the French media, French authorities after the conference?
I wish I could answer that, Chris. I can tell you, I've been indoors since morning. I had to cancel 2 meetings I had out in Paris today because I'm just exhausted. You're seeing me now at the end of a long day where I was just resting. So I've not even watched TV. I've not read any papers. I've talked to quite a few people, but nobody, I've not gone into the outcome of what happened yesterday.
All right. Eric, please stay there. We're going to open the phones briefly for the next 15 minutes, and then we will call it a day. But before we do that, let me take a brief break out here, ladies and gentlemen, and we are going to be right back after that with your phone calls. Stay put.
Are you ready to unlock the power of AI? Mastering AI Tools, a practical guide to ChatGPT and OpenAI, is your ultimate gateway course to harnessing AI in your career or studies. Provided by Pascal Presentations LLC, a trusted name in cutting-edge education, this course empowers you with the skills needed to navigate and utilize AI effectively. Whether you're a professional looking to boost productivity, a student wanting to stay ahead, or an everyday person trying to upgrade your knowledge on this transformative technology, this course gives you hands-on experience and practical tools to make AI work for you. Don't wait for the future. Start mastering it today. Enroll now with Pascal Presentations LLC and take the first step towards transforming your potential with AI.
ABS can help you reach your target audience like never before. Advertising on ABS, you'll benefit from our extensive reach and dedicated viewership. We offer special advertising packages during primetime slots and popular shows. You'll also be featured on our social media platforms, reaching an even wider audience. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Take your business to the next level. Contact our advertising team at absafricativ@gmail.com. ABS can help you reach your target audience like never before. Advertising on ABS, you'll benefit from our extensive reach and dedicated viewership. We offer special advertising packages during primetime slots and popular shows. You'll also be featured on our social media platforms, reaching an even wider audience. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Take your business to the next level. Contact our advertising team at absafricativ@gmail.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for staying put out there. I am going to open the phone lines at this moment, but remember, before you call, make sure the volume of your television set is shut down. When you call, focus on your phone. focus on your phone. If I pick your call and hear my voice in the background, I drop it to the next caller. So make sure that your TV volume is shut down before you call. You have the phone number there on your screen, and so go ahead and call. Go ahead and call. Let's hear what you have on your mind. In the meantime, let me bring back Eric on the board while waiting for your calls. Okay, let's get to the first caller here. Hello. Hello.
Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, sir. Where are you calling from?
Belgium.
From Belgium. Okay, what is on your mind, sir?
Yeah. This question is going to Mr. Eric.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Eric. I don't think any other way Chiroma can take the presidency without fighting. It's not possible. You cannot move a sitting president, someone that already inaugurated as a president by court. Where would they judge a case, in Cameroon, or where they cannot judge a case outside Cameroon? So he that is close to Chiroma should tell Chiroma that the only way that he can reclaim his mandate is through fight. Without fight, there's no way. That's what I want to contribute.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. Phone number is open. While we wait for other callers, Eric, maybe you want to jump in there and try that question.
Yes. I don't know. I never play God. I never do. And when I hear someone say never, my reaction is never say never, because you never know. Let me put that to rest. But let me say this. You all know, we all know, that Cameroon is literally on its knees right now. Any further financial disruption of any significance when salaries are not being paid, if for any reason salaries are not paid, if for any reason essential actions by public authorities are not carried out, we will further inflame a state of affairs which all it needs is a spark. And based on, I'm not alone who sees this, based on what we see, we're not far away from such a spark. Any government gets the leaders it deserves. Ultimately, is the Biya regime the government that Cameroon deserves? When when all the indicators of development are trending downwards, you think they can hold on to that forever? No, it's not going to happen. People are beginning to fight back, so all I can say is we're not taking the violence route. If violence has to be, it will have to come from the Cameroonian people themselves, and things seem to be trending in that direction.
All right, let's get to the next caller here. Hello.
Hello,
Comrade
Chris.
Where are you calling from, sir?
I'm calling from Sang Malima.
Sang Malima, okay.
So due to the security issue, I don't want to mention my name.
That's okay, go on.
Yeah. So really, I listened to all what you were saying there, especially that our, let me just say, our brother.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would just want to contribute to this is that for us, let's say Cameroonians, we were thinking that the only way to solve this matter is by taking up arms, because Cameroon today is the Cameroon of last, let me say, the beginning of this regime, Paul Biya, who has been there, and we know that we don't have president. And for now, I have been listening to most of the militaries, especially, here in Jalobo division. It's not easy, so we take, we are very careful with our movement, especially of the Southern Cameroonians. But according to what they are saying, most of them said Chiruma have disappointed them because what they were expecting him, they wanted Chiruma to put some pressure. Due to that pressure, if they're saying that he is about to win or to go to Itundi, most of them will change their mind and they will instead face their colleagues. But instead, when they wanted him to put that pressure, they never saw like he ran away. And that what he has done like that by running away have really put people that have really bring down the pressure.
All right.
Now Cameroon.
All right. Thank you. We get your point. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Comrade Chris.
Yes,
Good
sir.
day.
Calling from Texas.
I'm calling from Texas. Yes, comrade. I wanted to ask, direct this question to Mr. Eric Chinji. So we have. I think I understand he was in Kenya for some time. I'm not sure if I'm right, but my point is this idea of France having so much interest in deciding our elections. I'm not sure if if we look at Kenya, if we look at all these English-speaking countries, Britain does not have so much influence in their politics. So I'm thinking, first of all, France is the problem to start with. We cannot be counting.
You also observe that the French, even in Tanzania, the recent election case in Tanzania, the French intervened, broke out peace there. And remember, Tanzania is not a French colony.
Okay, it's not a French colony, but the general idea here is that most English-speaking countries are really. I understand what's going on in Tanzania. The French,
no, I'm backing your point. I'm backing your point essentially.
Right. Cameroonians should be sovereign enough to handle their own affairs by themselves. And I don't see this peace. I agree with the first caller who was talking about fighting. Because you take justice is something that you don't ask. You take it. And you take it by any means. If this too much, Cameroon does not understand peace. They don't understand the language of negotiation. What Cameroon understands is when people stand up, and of course you've seen how they always react. They don't go negotiating. They always try to use violence. If you keep talking about peace, like what I heard Eric Chinde was trying to say, I don't think that's or negotiations or just walking that fine path. I'm not sure that is the way to go. So that's just my take.
Okay. I know you have spoken extensively on that, but I will let him come in again briefly before we continue the course. Eric, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
So the point is the idea of we're not going to shed blood. We don't want to fight, which Chiroma is promoting. Somebody actually put on the comment here, how about if he doesn't want people to die? How about those who have died, who have been killed already?
Maybe I should start with that. I was going to talk about the response to the friend from Sang Malima, um, just to say that Chiroma didn't run away. Chiroma, I don't know if this person followed the progression of things and how his leaving Cameroon came about, and with the help, to some extent, of folks in the Cameroonian hierarchy. If Chiroma stayed in his house where he was when the military was closing in on him, there were young people, youths from all over the north, especially in Garoua, who provided the shield. It was a human shield around his house. And you must have known that this proved to be insufficient. And the government not only got the army to close in step by step, slowly, but put snipers on the top of the house next to his, who actually even killed somebody. So they're waiting for Chiroma to move around in his own house, and if they could pick him up, they would have. So he was, the danger was not only there present, but closing in. And if we wanted a martyr, well, maybe he should have given, he should have offered himself to be a martyr. But he's in this to win, get to a today, and effect the change the country needs. That's what this is about. And we can go on and talk until the chickens come home to roost. It will not change the fact that had he been in Cameroon, Chiroma would be dead today. Just like Anise Ekani.
All
Because
right.
of the ruthlessness of the government, of the regime in place. So if that's what we wanted, yes, he could have done that. But I'm hoping that all of those who've spoken about his running away or not being there, I hope they factor that into their own reasoning.
All
With
right.
regard to France deciding our elections, which was the second question, let me say this. I've tried, and I don't know how else to say it. France is not going to decide our elections any more than they decided elections in Tanzania. France essentially is playing its own game. It's the only interest that France is pursuing is the French interests. The only interest the Americans and the Brits are pursuing are British and American interests. Never lose sight of that. We are on our own here.
Yeah.
And so let us not, the French will do what they have to do. They'll play the game, they'll watch, but as soon as they can, they would like to be able to influence what is happening in Cameroon. And they know, based on their experience in other parts of Africa, that by aligning, especially at this time, with any side before they have absolute clarity that that side is in control. So the central word here is control. And they will step in to influence trends in Cameroon if they think they can do so with the support of the regime in place. And right now, they believe they cannot do so. Uh, in Cote d'Ivoire, they know that they can do so because Mr. Ouattara has demonstrated that he is in control. So please always have that in mind. The game, the international game is not what we wish all the time. Is what is possible. And with regard to peace not being the way to go, maybe as long as Mr. Chiroma is doing everything to bring down this regime, and it is clear that there are more ways than one to bring down any regime in the world today. He's doing everything he can to bring it down. If he doesn't succeed, then it's because the Cameroonian people don't want the change they've been asking for so loudly. During in the course of this discussion, I said it that Mr. Chiroma has called for ghost towns, no respect. has called for people to march to prisons. Nobody was listening. How else? He only has his voice, short of calling for arms, yes. And he doesn't want to call for arms. So will he ever be president? Maybe not. But he'd rather go down as the president Cameroon never had than the president who was taken to office by the bloodshed of Cameroonians. So it's in all of these things a matter of choice.
All right, let's get back to the phones. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, hello. Good evening, Comrade Chris.
Good evening, sir. Where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from the heart of Europe. I'm calling from Germany.
Okay, and what is on your mind?
Well, I want to congratulate you for focusing so much on neighboring Cameroon election and Chiroma every day. I don't know whether, my first question is, I don't know whether you have any plans of focusing on Ambazonia and focusing on this new momentum that Ground Zero is teaching us in the diaspora. Unity everywhere, unity warriors everywhere. You see harvesting, you see them fighting relentlessly like the one that Ambazonia tomorrow. I don't know whether you have any plans of keeping these distractions of Chiroma for Cameroonians. Let them do what they want to do. And we Ambazonians, we focus on our liberation. After all, we've been it for 9 years on the battlefield, and we've been on it talking the high grammar since 1961. So we've done all the grammar. So that's my first question.
That's not a question. You are making a statement, a comment. I don't know what the question there is.
Oh, Chris, you didn't get me. I was asking whether after focusing on Cameroon elections and talking Chiroma for more than 2 months, do you have any plans on starting to talk Ambazonia again? So that one will have the feeling that this champion Chris is actually focused on Ambazonia and trying to encourage, activate, galvanize, that firepower that when you used to be spokesman for the Ambazonia people, that is the Chris Anu that we know that's working for Ambazonia, and we know the kind of energy that you can put. So I'm asking whether you will start to work for Ambazonia again, because that La Republique, Chiroma, that the Cameroonians are not even interested. They are not fighting. They are not doing ghost town. Why are we talking so much about them, giving them so much airtime? That's the first question. Whether you work for Ambazonia again and you come back and work for Ambazonia and keep that distraction, and these middle people, these people who are washy, talking Cameroon on the left side, talking Ambazonia on the right side of their cheek. That's the first one. And then the second thing I wanted to ask, Comrade Chris, if you've heard about this new initiative that I see activists putting together, SCAOF, trying to bring Ambazonians back to re-energize, re-strategize, form a common platform that will actually start to put strategies together to take this thing to the finish line. I don't know whether you've heard about that initiative. Somebody like Mark Barretta,
let me say this to you. I don't think you are very well informed about Ambazonia. If you were very informed about Ambazonia, you would agree that anything that happens, any political change that takes place in the Republic du Cameroon, especially concerning leadership, affects our struggle. But talking about this unity movement that you are talking about by activists, it will surprise you to know that the person talking to you initiated that. I don't announce it. I work in the background. Go and ask them. So maybe when you are asking questions, be a little more informed when you ask them. All right. Thank you for
I've seen their documents. I've not seen your name on it, so I don't know whether it's from you.
My name doesn't need to be in anything. I used to.
Well, if it's from you, it's fine. But you are using your TV to talk about Cameroon. It's been 2 months. You're talking Chiroma. You are Bazonian. You are president.
Let me explain to you. I pay for this microphone, and I can use it to talk about anybody and anything.
Yeah, but
I have used it to talk. Hold on. I have used it to talk. I have used it to talk Ambazonia for 9 solid years. What is wrong talking about La République du Cameroon for 2 months of 9 years? Don't you know that what happens there affect the course of your own direction? Thank you for the call.
Well, but
okay, let's go to the next caller here. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, where are you calling from, sir?
I'm calling from George, calling from Savannah, Georgia.
Okay, what is on your mind, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Chris, and thank you, Brother Eric. I just want to make a comment. I understand sometimes the choice of our words. Maybe when we use guns, it changes the whole narrative. This whole thing about resistance, we are scared of people dying, but we are encouraging people to go on the street, march to A to D, knowing that when we do that, what's going to happen? People will die, because that's what happened with the Anglophone. When they started marching in 2017 with leaves, people were killed not because they had guns. So I'm just saying that Chiroma made a statement and said, I will liberate Cameroon by any means necessary. That statement. All options on the table. People, if they have to march to AG and they have to defend themselves, so be it. It's a right. So otherwise, we'll keep doing all these things that we're doing. People are dying. Time is going. The regime is gaining time.
So I guess you are essentially saying and agreeing with Alice Income and Chiroma that the people are not yet doing enough.
To an extent, yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in the fact that yes, people need to take the things in their hands, but at the same time, they should not stop people from arming themselves to defend themselves.
Who is stopping who from arming who?
Eric just said on there that they don't want bloodshed, right?
Yeah.
You don't want bloodshed, but you want to march and go to HUD or wherever the case may be, knowing that this barbaric regime, you know what they will do. So what I'm saying is, if people choose to pick up arms, so be it. You cannot discourage people because that's the only way they will defend themselves. I agree that the resistance has to be stepped up, but at the same time, self-defense is a right.
Absolutely. Thank you for the call.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Chris.
Hello, ma'am. Where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from Sweden.
Sweden. And what is on your mind tonight?
Yeah, I've been following your program with Mr. Eric Ginger and some callers. Like, I'm particularly concerned about those talking about arms.
Okay.
Am I wrong? You have been at the forefront of this Ambazonian crisis. I remember when Sisiko Ayoktabe, when they were like the leaders of Ambazonia, they didn't ask anybody to pick up arms. When they went to prison, they didn't ask anybody to pick up arms. The people resisted themselves. They formed groups and they pick up arms themselves. So I don't know why people are expecting Shiruma to tell them to pick up arms. I think if they are frustrated enough, if they have suffered enough, if they are not happy with the regime, they should do that on their own accord and let Shiruma handle his own with his
That makes a lot of sense. That is very legitimate.
Shiruma didn't ask the truck drivers to block the road. Shiruma didn't ask the people of Tiko and Mutengene to sit on the road. I think if people are frustrated enough, they should do what they want to do and let Shiruma do what he wants to do. I think fighting for change is a collective thing. Everybody has to do their own. Like, people should stop talking about arms and arms, because the real people that want to pick up arms, they will not call or they will not be on social media blabbing about it.
All right. Thank you. Very well articulated point. Thank you for the call.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chris.
All right. Hello, sir.
Hey, Comrade Chris. Greetings from the Netherlands. This is fellow Comrade Metrenikom.
Good. Greetings, sir. What is on your mind?
Thank you very much once again for having our fellow brother, Mr. Eric Chinja. I think we've dedicated much time enough to the situation in the Republic of Cameroon, and I want to also congratulate our able brother, Mr. Eric Chinja, who has been also a very, very strong proponent or supporter of Isaac Chiroma. Yeah, I think I can understand why and how some of our fellow Ambazonians are becoming a bit frustrated and agitated over the fact that the discussion about Chiroma has been for over 2 months and counting. Well, it's not a bad thing though. I think what has happened is that, to the best of my own thinking through, is that I think Ambazonians' best minds, legal and both, tactical, have given good and concrete advice to people of the Republic of Cameroon on how to handle a regime, because you don't topple a regime like Biya, who has been in power for over 43 years by just sitting and talking tough on the table. You see our people in the Republic of Cameroon, all they do is they gather around the television platforms, talk tough, hit the tables, and then raise their voices, and then while going out, they are arrested by the same army. Look at Kamto. Kamto is even in the court defending his election that he was stolen from him, and they are arresting his supporters on the street. Some are still in jail today, 7 years after. Kamto cannot even call for a street demonstration or even a ghost town to be effective. And well, maybe they could call for a ghost town, but I think the people of Cameroon, I think they are not prone to like civil disobedience in one way or the other. They are not like Ambazonians, that we have this strong attachment to civil liberty and our rights. So I think we have dedicated much time to La Republic of Cameroon. Of course, what happens in La Republic of Cameroon directly affects southern Cameroon, and much has been done. I think with the momentum that is going on right now in Ground Zero, Mr. Comrade Chris, I think it's time I think what I can say honestly is that I think we've been tackling two things from the two angles on one front, because with the Ambazonian movement.
Hold on there, Metro Nikon. I think it is important for our audience to know that ABS does not only cover Ambazonia. Yes, we have extensively covered what happens in Ambazonia, and we continue to do so. But equally, we cover events in other parts of Africa. We've covered the elections in Tanzania. We covered the Christian persecution, so-called, in Nigeria. Bringing guests from Nigeria on the set to discuss the subject. We've brought guests from, the USA to talk about things happening in other parts of Africa. And for as long as the elections in Cameroon remain unresolved, it will remain in the news, and we will have to keep on talking about it until when there is a resolution. That's just the way the news operates.
Which is why I'm very, very grateful to the ABS television for all for all the information, for all the broadcasting that has been doing or sending out in regard to the situation. I'm not against that, Comrade Chris. I'm not against the ABS television broadcasting news beyond Africa itself. I'm not against that. So I'm just trying to congratulate you and the ABS for all the effort you put. It's just that the citizens of the Republic of Cameroon, I think they have failed. They have failed to see
Of course, I know that all this is coming from your frustration from citizens of Cameroon refusing to act to free themselves. That makes a lot of sense. But listen, let's end there. We have many callers here. Let's try to get to them because we are rounding up here really soon. Thank you for the call.
Thank you very much, comrade.
All right. Hello. When you call, you have to stay on the line and not be listening on the television. Hello. Hello, sir. Where are you calling from?
Hi, calling from Maryland.
Okay, and what is on your mind, sir?
Yes, I want to thank our brother Eric Chinje for coming to clarify what happened in the Paris conference yesterday. Yesterday, I was a panelist on ABS and I watched the conference from start to finish. Like I told you when you asked the question yesterday, I was so disappointed with our brother Eric for not talking in English. Even Rebecca, our sister, who was so disappointed, and that was the call for concern. But I'm happy he clarified that. And I want to plead with Eric that in case any conference comes up, please make sure or please try your best to say something in English, or maybe your participation should be in English. It may surprise you that on this same ABS, a lot of our brothers, our Francophone brothers, do call and they ask Comrade Chris to do a presentation in French. So that's to show you how the whole probably Cameroon is trying to be bilingual, or they're trying to push the idea of bilingualism. Secondly, Eric, just a quick question. What do you mentioned a minister having over 32 or 40 luxurious cars? Do you have a strategy, or do you and Chiroma have a strategy to repossess all these things when he eventually gets to power? And lastly, I had something lastly to say. That's it. If you can answer that, I will appreciate. Thank you.
All right, Eric, over to you, sir.
I'm grateful for the question. Thank you for recognizing at least Chris's efforts and what we are trying to do. I am 100% Southern Cameroonian. 100%. I'm 100% Cameroonian from our part of the country, and I want to see a solution to this current crisis. As much as anybody, and I'm reacting to our friend from the Netherlands, Maitre Kumbe. So in everything I do with regard to my support for Chiroma, that for me is a key element that we will always take into account. And I know that, Chris, maybe some hardliners will criticize you for this, but I know that what is driving you is the fact that you know that Chiroma will work to resolve this problem. It will be put on the table, and it will be resolved in a way that responds to what the majority of us think. I know that. So it is part of one of the arsenals in your set of weapons to fight the war that we all you and the rest of us are engaged in. So it's true that there are lots of people who will not see it that way, but it's unfortunate. That's the way the world works. That's how the world works. Ultimately, people will sit and negotiate, and you have to find the people you can negotiate with if you're lucky. This regime in Yaoundé has demonstrated that even with powerful, quote-unquote, people within the regime who want to negotiate, my friend and brother John Gute wants to negotiate, and there are others, but the regime is determined not to negotiate. So what? And if you have a chance to get rid of the leaders of the regime, why wouldn't you? It should be part of your trying to fight the war. It's part of the independence you seek, the autonomy you seek. It should be a part of it. So the question about the strategy to fight illicit wealth, that has been, that all these leaders, so many of the leaders in the current government have amassed, is very clear. That's what makes them afraid. That's what makes them hang on with their every breath and use the most violent means possible. Because so many of them, and I don't say all, there's some really good people within this regime, But so many of them who've just spent years gathering wealth illegally, wealth that belongs to the people, they will do everything not to leave power. We know that. And they'll fight. It's natural. Ngongo leaves power, he ends up in jail. That the home he has built becomes state property, which will be sold. Their efforts right now, I can tell you, and again, I'm hesitant talking about these elements of strategy, but their efforts right now to identify every offshore account that belongs to a Cameroonian. That information is being gathered as we speak. There are efforts right now to gather the evidence that will be needed by the International Criminal Court. I told you they were one of the target audiences of yesterday's press conference. So efforts are being made in that direction. What we are working to achieve here is to return this country, to bring back the pendulum to the middle and take it from there.
All right, just hang in there.
Yes, there's no way people are going to end up benefiting from wealth that belongs to the people of that country. There's just no way. They can do so for a year, for 2 years, maybe a few more, but that's it. The wealth will be taken back and used to develop this country. That's why the country is not developed, for precisely that reason. We'll end it. The whole objective of this fight is to end it.
All right, hang in there. Let's take in these two last callers and we'll call it a night. Hello.
Yes, can I speak now?
Yes, sir. Go on.
I want to greet you first.
Where are you calling from?
And, from the United States.
Okay.
I want to greet you and Mr. Chinje. I think it is very wrong to say the people can do more, or that the people are not doing enough, they're supposed to do this or that. I think the people made a choice. They chose Mr. Chiruma as their leader. They were expecting him to lead them. So to say that, oh, the people, if they want him, they can bring him, that is not an option. In a revolution, people they choose a leader and they expect the leader to give the directions on what to do. The human beings, we are animals by nature. We expect that if we have a leader, we want the leader to tell us what next step we have to do. All Mr. Cheruma needed to do was to do nothing. Just tell the people, march to Yaoundé. And when the fire was hot, the people were out. They were demonstrating. They were on the street. And Mr. Chinje said, when Mr. Cheruma said that people should go to the prisons and remove their relatives, nobody came out. That is not true. There were many people, especially in the north, who went out to certain prisons and they removed those who were in the prison. In fact, some of the SDOs in the north were running helter-skelter. So people went out. But they were expecting that after the 48 hours or 72 hours, as Mr. Cheruma gave, that he was going to tell them what to do next, but they did nothing. They needed directions. So Mr. Cheruma was supposed to allow the people to flow. Let whatever was happening to continue to happen. People should express themselves and to march and let the revolution continue. But he killed it by saying that
in your opinion, how can Chiroma regain the momentum?
I think it's too late.
Okay.
It's too late.
All right.
I don't see how the people have moved on. If he has allowed, especially in the north, the Northeast were willing to shut down the north. If that has happened, the south would have followed because the Southerners were already in fire also. But he did not, especially in the north. If they have shut down the north, which the people were willing to do, the south would have followed suit. This would be one of the greatest monumental failure in political history in Cameroon. They have failed to learn from Frundi. They failed to learn from Kamto. They are repeating the same thing and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Thank you.
It's too late.
Thank you. Well articulated. Hello.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, hello, Chris?
Can you shut down the volume of the TV in your background, sir, and focus on your phone? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, where are you calling from,
Hello?
sir? Yes, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Boston.
Okay,
I'm
and
calling
what is
from
on your mind?
Yes, I want to thank you for what you have been doing, and I think that. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Go on.
Yes, and I think that the people of the north would have taken advantage of what is going on in southern Cameroon, and then rise up and take up arms. I don't know whether, as when you talk in English, I don't know whether they hear, because they are not doing anything at all. They should have taken up arms to face these people, and then we retreat to be defending southern Cameroon while they fight to liberate La République de Cameroon.
Maybe that is what Issa Chiroma means when he says the people are not doing enough.
Yes, I think that people who are saying that he should have done this, he did the best thing to retreat, to rebuild the forces, because when Frundi remained at home in 1992, he was put under house arrest. If Chiroma remained in Garwa, he would have been dead, as Mr. Eric Tinger is saying. So the people should rise up and fight to liberate their country while we are defending southern Cameroon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the call. All right, this will be the last caller here. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, where are you calling from, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chris. I'm calling from Ground Zero.
Okay. What's your contribution, sir?
Yes, I don't have a lot to say. What I just want to say is that, Mr. Chris, if you are in Cameroon now, that you need peace and you are not ready for war, that means you don't want peace. And even Mr. Chiroma, as we are talking about, that man is a technical crook as for me. Why did I call him a technical crook? Look at something. Before the day that Mr. Biaswe in, he declared a ghost town for 3 days, number 4 day, Biaswe in. Instead of him to start the ghost town that day that Bia is sorry in, is the day that the ghost town is finishing. How do we think? And what do we think?
There's interest. Okay.
Yeah, so what do we think he is?
I don't know. You answer.
That is all.
All right.
That is all. That is what I just wanted to contribute this evening. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the call. Unfortunately, we can't take any more calls. I see more coming in, but Eric, I will give you the last say, sir, from the last 2 or 3 callers.
Yeah. Thank you very much again, Chris, and grateful to all those who, put up a few questions, and especially our brother from Ground Zero, who we must congratulate, for not only surviving the crisis of all these years, but for, drawing from his experience to share with us what he thinks. So let me start with his question, which is essentially saying, to have peace, you must be prepared for war. War is fought on a number of fronts and with a number of things that you have to have. One of them is obviously people. You have to have people who are ready to go to war. And you have to have the arms that you'll need to go to war. When Ambazonia, the crisis started, a lot of money was generated to provide some of the arms that were initially used, and this is what led to the initial. When the army found a people who were determined to resist, And they resisted. And the best of the best army that the country has, the fellows they call the Bears, they couldn't win the war. They could not. So, something has to be said about people who are prepared to go to war and they have the means to go to war. Those resources dried up largely. There are no more fresh arms coming into the place. I think we see it's taken a turn for the worse, because I think besides the arms, there's a lot of drugs that have come into the marketplace. So we have to be honest with ourselves and be able to say that when you're ready to go to war, you have to have everything it takes to win, or don't even begin it. Or if you're going to, use all other means at your disposal. And I'm not criticizing anything about how Ambazonia executed the war, but I do know that they stopped the bill. And nobody is going to take on that part of the country without thinking twice. Not this government, nobody. So to a very large extent, that's a win, because it creates a whole new set of circumstances for future action. But, think about this for a moment. Had a number of initiatives been taken to get international legitimacy for the war against Yaoundé, the outcomes today might have been different. I say that just as food for thought.
What kind of international legitimacy would you be referring to?
Well, right now, I say that because I want to answer the question. Mr. Chiroma is, part of what happened yesterday in Paris was to demonstrate that he won, clearly. And this demonstration was not to Cameroonians, it's to the international community, those who can bring this Cameroon to its knees. Cameroon is going around the world looking for money to pay salaries and so on. Part of what we're doing now is to ensure that they don't have those resources. That is part of fighting the war. So the war is not only fought with guns, not in today's world. The war is also fought around the diplomatic table, around the business, the boardrooms. War is also fought within the diaspora. These are all of these elements. You have to take them in a strategic way, pull them together, and move. I think so we're seeing that happen, and this preoccupation with war. Everybody tonight who's called for war, I would love to ask them in return. Would you, now that you're so determined that fighting is the way out, would you go back to Cameroon and join that fight? I'm not sure that many would do it, but it's important. It's part of winning the struggle, and people have to recognize it. The guy from Ground Zero who said, "To have peace, you must be prepared for war," that statement in itself is true. But I don't see that somebody has won a war just based on the desire for peace. No, it's not happened. So I think we have did we as a country or as a people do what it takes to win the war that we have to win so that it brings about change in that part of the world? One guy from the U.S., one of the speakers from the U.S. Said the Cameroonian people have moved on. There may be some truth to that, but I do not believe that the people are they've agreed that change does not have change is inevitable. No. But so people have not moved on as much as he thinks they have. They haven't. But it's going to take a whole lot of you know, I don't know, fighting, quote unquote, you know, for people to be angry enough and step on those streets in their thousands and bring about the change that they want. I don't think we are there yet. I don't think we're in a place where people are angry enough to do what they have to do to bring about the change we need to end this crisis, or to change this government.
I think it is important to put into perspective the skepticism of people who say, hey, conferences are not enough. You are talking about using it to war in the international community. Let me share with you something here. I think people who say conferences, press statements are no longer enough at this moment, I think they have a legit reason for saying so, because we have been in this.
I think so
and
too.
You know that. There's been a moment we've been told the international community is not so much more interested in what is going on in Amazonia and Cameroon, not just because of the Ukrainian and Russian conflict, but because they say the humanitarian situation has improved. In other words, not so many people are being killed as it was before. You saw the massacre in Pinyin, your neck of the wood around there. You saw Bali, you saw Ngaribu, you saw Kumba, you saw Motengene, many of these places. And it was making the international community to sit up. Congress wrote at least 2 resolutions that I know, talking about diplomacy that you are talking about. We've sought diplomacy. We've been to Congress. We've been to the UN. We have held meetings with UN representatives. I mean, a few of us held meetings with UN representatives. It is not like we've not tried to sell it to the international community as you were trying to make it. As you said, when Sisiko was here, the idea was not to go with arms. The idea was if we go by way of international diplomacy, we win their hearts. But we only so soon found out that they don't care for as long as nobody is dying on the ground. They don't care. So the people who say conferences are not enough, they want action, they want something, I think they are legit, because from our experience we know nobody will look at you when nothing is happening on the ground. You mentioned a French saying, if Cameroonians do something, maybe they will stand up. This supports the idea, the coexistence of action and diplomacy, isn't it?
Absolutely, Chris. I mean, look, we all want the same thing. We want an end to the crisis, and we want our part of the world to be allowed to get back to life and improve on the environment. We all want that. The world doesn't grow from what we want. The world evolves for a whole variety of reasons, and we have to enter we have to find the lane on which progress is taking place and join it. I don't have any preconceptions or any sense of us succeeding where others have failed. I don't, we have to evolve with the times and find the best answers we can implement. Otherwise, I don't know what else we can do as a people to wrest control of our part of the world from those who continue to want to hold it captive. I don't know how else to do it, but sometimes and I think the best way to go is what we're doing now. Look carefully at all the options and see how we can take from each option and put them together as a winning strategy in a war that nobody wants. We are looking at what can be done diplomatically, but we're looking at what can be done from the economic standpoint. We're constantly looking at that. We're constantly asking ourselves, how do we bring this economy down? And you can see that progress is being made in that. But is it enough to turn the tides on this regime? Maybe not. Maybe we just have to reinforce what we're doing. And at some point, when the economy crashes and the government has nowhere to turn, people will become very angry. And God alone knows what an angry people can be up to if they don't find satisfaction in what's going on.
Is Chiroma coming out anytime soon to speak? Any idea?
Again, I think he's looking at how things are evolving, and based on that, he will speak or not speak. I mean, when things happen, he's trying to determine, should it be the spokesperson or should it be him? He only has the most powerful weapon at his disposal is his voice. It's Chiroma's voice. So he cannot just get up and speak at all times. He has to be careful how he uses that weapon. So that he takes into account.
All right. It's been a long one, Eric. Thank you very much for always showing up to
Thank you.
Make some sense out of these things. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And good luck with all you're doing. And let's understand someday that we together will have to free our land and take out those who want to destroy it at all costs.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a long one. We're going to call it a night here. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to being back here on Thursday with the triers. The triers. Eric, don't go. One moment. I forgot about this. Sisiko is going back to trial on Thursday with the Naira 10, the rest of the 9, including himself to be 10. In a sense, what this is all about, again, they lost the case before the military tribunal. They took an appeal. The appeal court maintained the military court ruling, and they appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did not say yes, did not say no. They remained quiet until all of a sudden, they now called them up and said, you are appearing before the Supreme Court for your appeal. Do you make anything out of this?
My sense, Chris, I think, this government is, they've gotten to a point of full desperation, and the government is as weak as it can ever become. And anything they can do to find oxygen, the oxygen they took away from Anise Ekani, anything they can do to find a scope for action, they'll go for it. And one of them today is finding some kind of a win in the so-called Anglophone crisis. So whilst I do not know what the motivations are behind the case going to the Supreme Court on the 18th, while I do not know what the exact motivations are, I believe that the only win it can generate for this regime is freeing the leadership of Amazonia, of Ayuk Tabe and his team. It's the only win they can get out of this. So I'm really hoping that in a couple of days, when this thing is heard at the Supreme Court, they'll finally say they can free them, they can regain their freedom, and if they do, it will be a big win for them, which Chiroma had hoped to get. He made it clear to you, Chris, that that's one of the first things he will work on, reestablishing peace in that part of the world. So I see, hopefully, I'm praying that it will be the win that has eluded them all this while, and that they can actually finally get this part of the world back on the road to peace. So let's keep our eyes open. Let's pray for for some good sense to come into the minds of those who lead the country at this time, and let them do the right thing and free Ayub Tabe and the rest of the team, Asongwen and the rest of them. All right. Once more, thank you, Eric, for coming in to shed light on this. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that will be it for tonight. I look forward to being back here on Thursday to monitor what happens in Yaoundé with that Supreme Court case pitting La République du Cameroon against the Naira 10. So I will be here on Thursday with updates. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you all. I will be back on Thursday, and good night.
Support ABS Africa TV, empower African voices, and change the narrative. For far too long, Africa's stories have been told by others, through lenses tinted by the agendas of legacy media, often funded by Western interests. These narratives have painted a skewed picture of a continent brimming with resilience, innovation, and untold potential. But now it's time for change. It's time for Africans to tell their own stories. At Africa Broadcasting Service ABS, we are on a mission to redefine how Africa is reported. But this mission is not something we can achieve alone. We urgently need your help. Our vision is clear: to hire and train a new generation of community reporters and citizen journalists who will capture the pulse of Africa, reporting on the issues that matter most, from human rights and good governance to climate change and environmental justice. Armed with nothing more than smartphones and their untamed determination, these reporters will uncover the stories that legacy media too often ignore. We need to provide training and equipment to these storytellers so they can report on Africa as it truly is. We cannot do it without you. Your donation, whether big or small, will help us give Africa's unsung heroes the voice they deserve. Together, we can disrupt the old narratives, challenge stereotypes, and paint a truer, richer picture of Africa. This is more than just supporting journalism. It's about empowering a continent. It's about justice. It's about truth. Together, let's tell Africa's story. Please join our GoFundMe and donate now.
Then it's smart. Muna king fenge. Usari maribo. Wose se tu, Joseph Urabwe. 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 That concept Grandago. Mukuba. Bate. Amechi. Peter Eno. Ancien driver. Rogbeno. Murukwa. Aquaticaba. Eyong Atem. Rogbeno. Aquaticaba. Arremoni. Rogbeno. Tomken Batam. seku, Joseph Woraboy. Seku, Joseph Woraboy. I'm worried about BT. What teacher? Oma Sende. I'm one year seven. Oma Sende. I'm in the UK. Mambenevan. Chinebenembe. Oma Sende. This song floppies. Ako. Oma Sende. Mama Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Bima Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Bima Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Seseku. Kabanyankal. Oma Sende. Kamojo. Oma Sende. Seseku. Abidjan. Oma Sende. Ayo. Oma Sende. Akwatigaba. Asam Kongo. Oli. Oma Sende. Sefu Woraboy. Oma Sende. Akwatigaba. Bisongam. Ongona. Oma Sende. Sefu Woraboy. Oma Sende. Bima Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Bima Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Bima Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Toto. Mena minute boy. Oma Sende. Emorwe,